Nice to have you here as we start the feed. And scrolling on down. Uncle Dale and his power stash, says Chad Smith, reporting for duty. Remember, if you're in Austin, Texas, and you see Uncle Dale, rub his power stash for 14 days of good luck. Sonny Sloan, thank you so much. I will not tell your wife for that amazing super chat. Really appreciate your support of SOR. Smokin' Joe, the gorgeous Tristan Stevens, Venner Smith, how you doing? Glenn John McEnroe, the King of Wimbledon. The gorgeous Manitoba Becky, they call her the Wheat Queen. 509er, good to see you. Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. If you're not signed up for World Bigfoot Radio yet, you are missing out on YouTube. Eva. Hi, Eva. Nice to see you. The gorgeous Marie, thank you for coming on in. The stunning Block Chic is here. And Stephen Edmond, Brother Eugene, Sasquatch, good to see you guys. Ozzy, oi, oi to you. The Michael Leger has arrived, everyone. The Michael Leger. And Space Cal, yeah, we got you. Murray F., Mr. Lurks-a-lot, good to see you. The gorgeous Jenny, thanks for coming on in. And we're going to have to cut it off. Mark Ellens, right there. Gorgeous Renee. Here we go, everyone. Let's rock. Horns up. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old baby the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Our good friend Olav Phillips from Paranoia Magazine is here. He's a familiar voice around these parts, where we bring him in to talk about all things major woo. We go well beyond the peak woo. We're looking for mega woo tonight. And when we need that mega woo fix, there's only one man who can bring it to us. And that is the man, the myth, and the legend, Olav Phillips from Paranoia Magazine. Tonight, we're going to get into some pretty dark stuff. UFOs. We're going to get into the dark side of disclosure, Solar Warden, secret space program, all while Olav is clicking away on his phone and making marshmallows. Yes, we are. Olav Phillips, always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. How are you?
Greetings and salutations, Dave. I'm doing well.
I miss the greetings and salutations, buddy.
Good.
Olav, for people who may not be familiar with whom you are you're the editor of Paranoia Magazine. You've been playing in this field for the better part of 20 years. You are considered one of the most knowledgeable when it comes to the secret space program and everything in between. How did you decide that you wanted to take all this in?
Oh, boy, Dave. It all started one night while I was reading a Choose Your Own Adventure. That's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I was, third grade, fourth grade. I was reading a Choose Your Own Adventure in bed. And there was a big light in front of my window. And I got really scared. I hid under the bed. Well, not under the bed. I hid under my covers. And I pulled up my blanket and I hid. And I popped my head back out and it was still there. I finally worked up the courage. I sprinted across my room and went and got my dad. And he comes in with me, and it's gone. And so the next day, I went to my elementary school. I went to the library. And I went to the librarian. Back then, We actually had librarians, and we had libraries in schools. And I said, I saw something really weird that I can't explain, and I'd like to figure out what the hell. Sorry, I figure out what the heck it was. And she said, "Oh, you want the books over there?" And so I went and looked, and it was books about airplanes and stuff. And I came back. I said, "No, I used to live on an Air Force base. I know what airplanes look like. This was not an airplane." And she said, "Oh, you want those books?" And so she pointed to a different one. And I went, and it was a little corner of the back of one little tiny bookshelf at the very bottom. And I got Jacques Vallée, Messengers of Deception. I got J. Allen Hynek's book. I got Brad Steiger's book, Beyond Time and Space. And I could not read Vallée. It was too confusing because of the symbolism. Hynek's book for a third grader was a little dense. But Brad Steiger's book, it just captured my imagination. Mysteries of Time and Space. And I just kept going. I have still never figured out exactly what I saw. But it's been a fun trip trying to figure it out. So,
you have had quite the career in this field where you've dealt with everybody from 20 and back claims that they've been on Mars to people who claim that they've been a part of projects such as My Labs and MK Ultra. You've really taken on the darker side of ufology and the paranormal. Why is that?
I have, as a person, I have an obsession with secrecy and intelligence and spooky stuff. Not like woo, but like spooky. And so I don't know, the answers always seem to go there. I was a big believer in following, just follow the question down the rabbit hole. So it always seemed to end up there. If you're looking into anomalous aircraft, you can debate whether they're ultra-terrestrials or extraterrestrials or UFOs or UAPs or whatever. But a lot of times, when you look into exotic aircraft and mysterious lights in the sky, it ends up in special access programs at Lockheed. So you follow the answer, the answer down, and that's where you end up.
I'm just going to get you, Olav. We're getting a lot of feedback from a lot of the movement of your. I guess you're on your phone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of movement. So I'm just going to get you to try and slow that down a little bit because it's really clicking really hard on the air. I apologize, but for you, the deeper the questions, the more you have always looked into that. And when you look at everything that is happening these days with everything regarding UFOs, disclosure, the narratives that are going on, what do you see from what you have learned?
I see a narrative that is trying to obfuscate something, a narrative that is trying to misdirect. I've never, I find people like the TTSA fascinating because, you got a rock star, he was a rock star, but you got a rock star and he can reach out and get anybody he wants in the entire universe to look into UFOs or UAPs or whatever they call them. We're rebranding. And, me, my short list, it's Vallée, going and getting some of these guys that, hardcore, physical trace case people who are field researchers, that's guys like Nick Redfern who do insane research, right? Nick Redfern is probably one of the greatest researchers I've ever met. The guy can find anything. But who do they do? Who they go to at TTSA? They go to a spook factory. Everybody on that board, everybody that's an advisor, everybody who's anybody, they all work for the CIA. They work for a massive defense contractor, Lockheed, Northrop, whoever. They all have these spooky backgrounds, and that's who they go to. And then their front man, he's an ex DIA dude working as a contractor in the Pentagon. It's that fascinates me. And when I see that, I have to question, what is the larger picture here? Because, I don't say that I have all the answers. I don't say that I can give you the physics on why XYZ can do this or that. I don't claim to be any of that. I document stuff and I research it to my best of my ability. But if I'm going to go get an expert, I'm going to go to JPL, MIT, I don't know, what's the name of that one? I forget the name of it now. It's in the South. They do a lot of like aerospace engineering. I'd go there, get a guy or two, or people in general who are experts in propulsion systems, aerospike engines, pulse detonation engines, whatever. Try to understand it. I would not go to John Alexander. It's just not what I would do. I wouldn't go to Hal Puthoff. The guy's a heavy duty CIA contractor. He was involved in Ultra. I mean, these are not people that they have agendas and ulterior motives.
So what do you think, looking at it from the outside, is the ultimate motive of what we've seen play out over the last 3 years regarding UFOs and the narrative that the government really doesn't know what's going on? You're not buying this, are you?
No, I never have. I think it's BS. I think one of the best examples of the level of BS that is that, I talk about every once in a while, but one day, somebody sent me an MP3 of a radio transmission it happened a while back, but it was between, I think, a MiG-29 or an Su-27 or something that was out on perimeter in the Russian Far East. And this guy was flying around, air defense control told him that there was some sort of an aircraft intruding on Russian airspace. So they sent him out to go find it. So he goes, finds it. They've got a radar lock on it. He's trying to keep up with it. All this is intercepted radio traffic. I had it translated. And he's like, it's a light. It's traveling very fast. I'm matching its speed, but I can't gain on it. Every time I go, I power up, it powers up. It goes faster, faster, faster. And then eventually, the thing just, I guess, got tired of it. He went weapons hot, and it got tired of him. So it took off. But when it took off, right, he said that it was heading toward a NATO-aligned country. And it's like, okay, so I have a high-speed object that is flying through Russia doing something, and it gets chased. If I'm an alien, why am I flying toward a NATO country?
So,
right?
Yeah, and I get that, and I can appreciate that. So, I mean, where do you draw the line, though, between what the government knows and what we have? Okay, because the one thing that I've learned from you over time, Olav, is that there's a lot of secret toys out there.
Oh, for sure.
So how do we tell the difference?
Well, ultimately, somewhere, somebody knows, right? But a lot of the stuff is hidden within special access programs inside these defense contractors like Lockheed, like the Skunk Works. And the reason that they use special access programs is because using a special access program, they are not beholden to report it to the Defense Committee of the Congress or anybody else. They can just go and do what they want. And it's basically the Air Force writes them checks and they go build things. But the number of people who actually know what they're building is very small. So I think probably the person who has the closest level of knowledge as to what is actually creeping around in there is probably some of the project managers and program managers at Lockheed. I think if you talk to a Lockheed program manager, you get a pretty good idea. But they're funneling this stuff. It goes right out of DARPA straight into the Skunk Works. So, yeah.
But it always comes down to, my friend, where are they hiding these toys? Where are they?
That's a good question. I mean, what I will tell you, they could really hide them anywhere. I mean, they could put them in your backyard. You wouldn't know. But what I would argue to you is that a lot of them are still at Area 51. They use, like, what is it, Cold Lake up there in Canada. They use other places that are very remote. We have black sites all over the world where they could test this stuff. But what I will say is that there's a spot up in the Sierras that I go to, and I haven't gone for a while because of COVID and other stuff, but there's a spot up there. You go on a Saturday night, you can just watch the stuff climbing out of Area 51. You just watch it fly straight up into the sky and vanish. You see lights like doing all kinds of crazy things. So, I think there's still a lot of it there. White sands. I mean, it depends. Like, it depends on who's sponsoring it. If it's the Navy, it's going to be at AUTEC, which is technically in the Bermuda Triangle. If it's the Army, they have the one out in Utah, Dugway. White Sands, Kirkland. Nellis. And Nellis, Area 51 is not the only secret part of Nellis. I mean, you have the Tonopah Test Range. I mean, they fly rendition flights in and out of the test range all the time. There's a place in Mercury, Nevada that's like a little airstrip, and you can go watch rendition flights up.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'll see a C-130 land. It's kind of scary. Hold on, let me fix my camera. It's kind of scary. It's right off the freeway. You pull onto BLM land, Bureau of Land Management. You see a C-130 land. You see a Gulfstream 5. You see a whole bunch of really scary guys in like beige pants and white shirts, wearing body armor, carrying assault rifles. Then you'll see some dude in shackles, and then they walk from the C-130 to the Gulfstream, and then that Gulfstream flies to Guantanamo. You know where else they do it? They fly a lot of like weird flights out up to Nunavut. Is it Nunavut? What's the one that's
Nunavut?
in
Nunavut?
Yeah. They fly a lot of stuff where it flies out past Nunavut and in Newfoundland, and they circle out over the Atlantic for 5, 6, 7 hours, and then they come back.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, but I mean, that's not secret aircraft. That's just secret spooky stuff that they're doing. So, I mean, a wise man once told me that if you're going to hide something, you hide it under a flagpole. Whether it's a Canadian flagpole or an American flagpole or a French flagpole or a German flagpole or a NATO flagpole or a Russian one, it doesn't matter. You just do it out in the open because nobody notices. I mean, a secret airplane could fly over your head right now. You'd never know. In fact, the other day, I was watching Flight Radar, because it's kind of fun, and I noticed that there was a Global Hawk, which is a high-altitude surveillance drone. It was doing a search pattern over Northern California.
How come?
I don't know.
Why do you think?
They were looking for something, but they did a search pattern over all of Northern California at 49,000 feet. That's a drone. That's not a plane. That's a drone.
Okay, so with all this going on, what is the race for the technology these days?
I think it's altitude and speed, if you had to ask me. It's altitude and speed. If they can get altitude and they can get speed, it's harder to shoot them down. It gives them more flexibility at the speed at which they can respond to stuff. See, a lot of times, like we see things in the air, and people say that's a UAP or UFO or whatever you call it this week. Because it is. I mean, it's in the air. You can't identify it. But it doesn't mean it's aliens or ultra-terrestrials. It just means it's an object. And this thing's flying so high. I mean, I see them over my house. I use night vision goggles, and I watch them doing weaving patterns. And they're so high that they look like satellites, but they're not because they're changing course. And so you get up that high, and it's hard to shoot you down. And you can also get around the world, and, if you can achieve suborbital, like you can circle the Earth in like 90 minutes. So think about that. I have a little airplane with a bomb on it, like a nuclear bomb, and I can get anywhere in the world in 90 minutes. That seems pretty attractive tactically.
Olav Phillips is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We have 5 minutes before we're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Olav, for you, as you are investigating, how do you find your information on these subjects?
A lot of digging and patience. Oh, yeah, you got aliens, Dave. I'm an alien. Did you know that I'm an alien?
You're a wannabe Canadian is what you are with all your Carhartt outfits.
A lot of digging, a lot of reading, a lot of putting pieces together. It's, nowadays we call it open source intelligence. That's actually the term.
Okay. But for your information, and I look at Michael Schratt as well, and I would kind of add him to this category as well, Olav. But for the fact that you are going through all of this, finding this information. Michael Schratt does as well. I mean, a lot of this information that you're finding is usually coming through slip-ups from the government who accidentally post things.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. That 99%, it's like Aurora, the Aurora program, right? The only reason we know that it's called the Aurora program is because the person who's doing the classification of the budget forgot to obfuscate the name Aurora program out of the budget. And so once the name Aurora program was in the budget, everybody said, oh my God, what's the Aurora project? And they all went out and started searching for it. And then, we're all human, right? So you find that one aerospace engineer, he got fired, but he was like a materials guy who was working on the skin, and then you start to piece things together. So yeah, it just takes one small screw up. It's kind of like the thing with Gary McKinnon. Like, the reason I really love the Gary McKinnon story is that what did Gary McKinnon find? Gary McKinnon found all the garbage, the bureaucratic garbage left over from the quote-unquote secret space program. He found movement orders. He found equipment transfers. He found ammunition movement. Let's move some food around. It was nothing like, here's a map to the alien super base, right? It wasn't like that. It was more like, oh, well, ship XXX needs 67 uniforms, and they need some extra ketchup. He found stuff like that. And that's how you find this stuff. It's the little things that people don't pay attention to. It takes a long time to find it.
What is the biggest piece of information that you found?
Me personally, I think it's not that I found it, it found me. And I think the most fascinating thing that I ever got happened at the end of a radio show. I've told that story often, that in the last 5 minutes of the show, I was on a radio show. In the last 5 minutes, this guy who was a retired aerospace engineer for a aerospace company in the Pacific Northwest, go figure, and he was working out at some secret facility down by Palmdale, back in the mid-'70s, and he was saying that he worked on something called Solar Warden. And he described it to me, and the whole conversation lasted about 3 minutes, but it was incredibly insightful. The amount of information that he passed on in 3 minutes was fairly amazing. Or, another time, like, I spoke at Paranoia Con eons ago, and this guy was like, oh, I'll give you a ride back to your hotel. And I was like, okay, sure, why not? He seemed all right. And he was a defense contractor, and he was telling me about, installing, like, particle cannons on Navy ships and rail guns and stuff, The level of sophistication that he had about it was pretty indicative that he wasn't making it up. So those are probably the more interesting ones. But a lot of times, I think the best thing I ever found was a radio transmission between the North Koreans and a cargo ship where they were smuggling missile parts through the Panama Canal. That's probably the most interesting one I kind of figured out myself.
Why would they be doing that?
Because they wanted to build an ICBM, a nuclear missile. So they bought the parts, and I guess bought the parts and had them shipped to Cuba, and then they were trying to run it through the Panama Canal, and then they got caught. And the Panamanians, they found the stuff. They didn't even know what it could be. And so they called us, and the Army guys from the Army base down there, they went and took a look at it. They couldn't figure it out. So they had to bring a bunch of guys in from the Pentagon. And then when the Pentagon guys got there, the whole story went dark. It went silent. So I think it was an attempt to ship in ballistic missile parts. But there was a whole story there of burst transmissions and coded radio traffic being intercepted by ham radio operators, and it's a whole story in and of itself. But that's probably the coolest thing I ever found.
That is absolutely awesome. Olav, I'm going to get you to hold on right there as we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. It is the dark side of ufology. Solar Warden, UFOs, secret space program. I'll tell you, one of the best in talking about this subject, Mr. Olav Phillips, is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. And when we come back, we're going to get into who is flying what with whom here on Spaced Out Radio and Olav Phillips. We'll return right after this. All right, buddy, we're clear.
Okay, I was able to pin my phone,
Good.
so it should be stable now and not move.
Good. Polar eclipse. F off for not telling the truth about what's happening in BC, Dave. It just got announced today, buddy, so lay the F off back. How about that? Right? Take a chill pill. Have a Snickers.
Oh, Snickers, that sounds good. All right, I'll be back in 1 minute.
All right, buddy. Told you he'd fix it, Uncle Dale. My shirt says, "You've got aliens." Soon you will be able to get this on our new website in our brand new store, because you need aliens too. Hey, Wayland, how you doing? Big thumbs up from Uncle Dale and his power stash. It's like it's my fault that the government announced it today, and apparently I'm a liar now. Holy cow. Unbelievable. Yes, the gorgeous Kira, we know you got aliens. Yancey Scott. Well, as the announcement, if you want to talk about it, is what the hell is they are the British Columbia government is mandating that you're not allowed to be able to go anywhere without any type of vaccination.
Yeah, I did that on Saturday in San Francisco. I had to show my vaccine card everywhere. Yeah, we do that here too.
Magnolia, how are you? Hey, Olav.
Yeah.
If you look in the skyline where you are, we have a listener named Fap in your area. Can you see his head? Because he's got a massive melon. Can you see it anywhere?
Oh dear God, I can see the shine from here. It's reflecting off the moon.
Holy cow. Just be careful. You don't have to be afraid, okay?
I'm not.
Just wanted to let you know.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the FYI.
You're welcome. How's them marshmallows?
Oh, it was really good. I didn't want to do that while I'm on the show, though.
I'm not gonna,
sure.
I'm not going to lie. I would love one of them. Mushroom. Sweet Morbid Bear, welcome to our channel. How are you? Oh, dear God. I can see Fap's head from here. That's awesome.
That's crazy, considering you're in Canada. Like, when you say he's in my area, like, what does that classify as? Somewhere on the West Coast?
Yeah, pretty much. Northern California, Southern California, Nevada.
Okay, that's a big area, dude. Do you know how long it takes me to get to LA from here?
Do you know how big Fap's head is?
Okay, but do you know how long it takes for me to get to LA from here?
Yes, I do know. Are you in Oregon right now, or are you back home?
No, I'm outside San Francisco.
Right on. Alex Kuhn, what's happening, man? Good to see you. All right, we got just over a minute. Stoke that fire for us. Give it a little poke for us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm really jealous of the marshmallows right now. Now I know what I'm doing this week. We're not allowed fires right now. It's a little warm around here.
We probably shouldn't. I probably shouldn't either, but I thought it'd be a good thing to do for Spaced Out Radio.
So do I. Joan Dillon from the Netherlands, welcome to our channel. The gorgeous Tracy Benna has returned, everyone. Give us a wave and a curtsy, Tracy, if you don't mind.
Oops. I have to move back. The fire's too hot.
Yeah, that's fine. That happens. All right, we want to say a big thank you to Chad Smith, Sonny, Space Cow, and Black Dragon for the amazing super chats. It is a pleasure to have all of your support here on Spaced Out Radio. It is a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis. If you're new here, we are a live radio show, which is why we do take commercial breaks and kind of mess around at the bottom and top of the hours. But we're going to get serious here in 5 seconds. Here we go. Get your horns up. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say that you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight from Paranoia Magazine, Mr. Olav Phillips, The Dark Side of Ufology. Let us make it happen right now. Olav, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure when you're here. Now, if you want to get jealous right now, Olav is roasting marshmallows while we continue this show. And, you know, for somebody who's been in forest fires for the last couple of months here, I'm dead jealous. Dead jealous. What I would do for a roasted marshmallow right now.
Well, I'll tell you, it hasn't been great here. I mean, during the day, it's like Tatooine, it's like an orange sky. The sun is like a strange, like a burned umber disc. It's bad. But I was like, I'm on Spaced Out Radio. I always feel like when I'm on this show, because I always do it in my backyard, I figure, it felt kind of like it was like a campfire, like I'm around a campfire. I figured, you know what, I'm just going to light one. I'm doing it very safely. I have plenty of water to put it out. Nothing's at risk, and I just thought it'd be a lot of fun.
Well, it is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun, my friend, and thank you so much for joining us. Earlier, right before the break, we were talking about what is ours, what is theirs, and where is it hiding, because in the end, I think with the advancements of technology from people like James Goodall quoting Ben Rich from back in the day, who was a good friend of his, saying that, that the American technology is about 80 years ahead of what we are seeing today. Do you look at this with all of these projects going on? How much of these black projects or these black aircraft are out there?
It's really impossible to say. I mean, and by the way, I've talked to DARPA engineers, and they tell me it's more like 150 or 200 years. But Ben Rich has a very famous comment that he made during a Caltech alumni dinner, where he said that not only does he have the technology to take ET home, he has a contract. So I think that's kind of a stunning admission from a guy who runs the Skunk Works, But it's impossible to say like how many aircraft there actually are. Probably not a ton. I would say if there's more than 50 or 100 of these kinds of aircraft, I'd be surprised. But their capabilities are so insane that I don't think you need a lot of them.
What's the purpose of these craft? Is it just for spying?
No. I mean, it's a lot of things. Nowadays, they're trying to make things multi-use. So you'll have a plane like the TR-3B, right? It can carry munitions or it can carry sensors. A lot of times, like they make them so they're adaptable. So they can carry sensor payloads, taking photos or, capturing radio signals or whatever. They can do that and carry munitions at the same time. I mean, obviously, you take a Global Hawk versus like a Predator or a Reaper. The Global Hawk isn't designed to carry munitions. It lacks the pylons to actually carry, missiles and stuff. So it's pretty much, solely surveillance. But, a lot of aircraft, they're capable of doing both at once.
Now, what triggers me a little bit is, because the question is, how come nobody ever sees these being built? How come, they're never seeing where these aircraft are being
built? But
they
are.
To? But what I'm saying, though, is I think what a lot of people don't understand, Olav, is that you may have a factory in the Palm Desert in California that's creating the nuts and brackets. You may have another factory in Seattle that is creating the wheels. You may,
right.
and yet none of them really know what the project is that they're working on. They just know that they have to change the designs to create these new products.
I heard a story once from a machinist. He was a very sophisticated machinist, and he basically worked for a little tiny subcontractor for a larger defense contractor. And pretty much like all this company did was make this bolt. It was literally a bolt. And it was, the kind of materials that they were using to make the bolt, super complex alloys and other things. But they made bolts. That's it, just bolts. And he never knew what the bolt was for. He just knew that they made a lot of bolts, a little tiny company. They put them in bins and ship them. One day he was at a museum or something. He had long since retired. And one day he was in a museum and he saw a mock-up of like a nuclear reactor. And he saw his bolt. And he said, "Oh my God, I made that bolt." And literally, like this machine shop, all they did was make this one bolt that was used in a nuclear reactor. But he had no idea what the rest of it was for. They actually farm it out like that to make sure that nobody can figure it out. It's very complicated.
I can see that, and I can appreciate that. So when you have all of these thousands of people who are making one little specific part, I'm not saying for the 50 or 100 that will actually build the plane. Those are people, I mean, it's easier to control 50 or 100 than it is 10,000 who built the parts.
Right. I'm saying that there's not a lot of the planes either, because you don't need a lot of the planes. But yeah, there's very few people that actually work on the entire aircraft. And you were asking, I was thinking about it over the break. You were asking where they put them. It's funny. I saw a film, how should I put it? It was like a write-up with a lot of photos. This guy was going through Google Earth, and he found an airfield like in the middle of Nellis, and it wasn't at Area 51 or anything. It was just somewhere on the Nellis Range. And they showed close-ups of this thing, and it looked like an airfield, like an honest-to-God airfield, like the airport down the street from my house, And then they panned out, and they showed the parking lot, and they showed these, trucks, like 4x4 trucks, probably like the truck that you have at home in the wilds of British Columbia. I have a Sequoia, like it's a big car. Well, they had a bunch of those in the parking lot, and it dwarfed like the fuel tank. And when you finally saw this thing, it was like, oh my God, that's a drone airfield. And it had shelters. I mean, it looked like a normal military airfield. It was crazy. But it was just in the middle of the desert. It wasn't like it was underground or anything. It was just in the middle of the desert.
So how many of these craft, let's take the TR-3B there for a second. With your sources that you have, are you looking at 5 aircraft, 10 aircraft, 100?
I'd say probably 24. If I had to guess, I'd say probably 24. I mean, it's a funny thing. Like, you don't see them a lot, like, flying together. They're very solitary. But, like, I followed one once from Area 51 down into the south, where it, it had obviously met up with an air tanker or two, and then it flew off toward Russia. So they kind of fly onesie twosie. They don't, it's not like you see with like a B-52 where you have this like entire B-52 bomber wing like fly over your head. These kind of aircraft, they don't fly in large groups. I mean, I've seen anomalous aircraft flying in large groups. I saw I once saw a dogfight with about 14 separate aircraft dogfighting and making geometric patterns in the sky. I watched that for a couple hours, but I think that's the oddity. They were making like triangles and squares in midair.
The reason
it was
why,
pretty crazy.
One of the reasons why I asked is I was talking with MUFON Canada president David Palachuk, and he was saying that in Canada, especially in 2021, there has been a real uptick in black triangle sightings. So if this is such a secret aircraft, why do you think we're having so many sightings of this if it's human and not extraterrestrial?
Well, I think they're operationalizing it. When you finally really... So in my entire life, I've seen the Aurora twice.
Tell us about that.
So the first time I was at ECETI, the James Gilliland Ranch.
Right.
And I saw this thing flying from east to west. Both times I saw it fly from east to west. And I saw like a black object. I saw it at dusk, and I saw a black object flying. And then just like these popping lights behind it. And it just streaked like a bat out of hell out toward the west and disappeared. The second time I saw it at night over northern Nevada. The same thing, it was like flashes of light. You could see like the fuselage kind of illuminated by the flashes. But you see these flashes of light as it streaked across the sky. It didn't even make a sound. Like, it was silent. It was the strangest thing. One of the strangest things I've seen.
The only thing strange like that I've saw was on Vancouver Island, because I'd always kind of have an affinity for military aircraft.
Oh, I love them.
Especially ever since the retirement of the SR-71.
Right.
And long story short, my ex-wife and I, we were driving on Vancouver Island. We were driving north just to, because, if you wanted to do something on the island, everything was half an hour to 2 hours away.
Right.
And
lovely place though.
It is a gorgeous place.
Really
and I remember I had just watched this show about UFOs. This is going back to like 1999, 2000.
Okay.
And they were talking about this Aurora program. And one of the things they said was its contrail looks like the old style phone cords. That's all intermixed. Sort of like that. And we actually, my ex-wife and I actually saw one of those going north, so traveling south to north. And we were like, you got to be kidding me. Now, she obviously didn't really care too much. That wasn't her thing. But for me, I was geeking out, because all of a sudden you're like, okay, is this what I actually think it is? Or is it a contrail that's spreading out? I don't know.
So you must have seen it after it had been up there for a while, because that's what happens to it eventually. But they call it a donut on a rope, because basically what you see is a circle, like a series of circles, and then like a contrail, and then a bunch of circles.
Yes.
Yeah. Because what you're seeing is the contrail of the aircraft, and then the explosions as the pulse detonation engine goes. And that's where you see the circular contrail form out.
No, that's excellent. So with an aircraft like that, obviously we don't know how fast it's going. People have said it could go up to 8,000 miles an hour. But recently, Danny Sheehan, lawyer to Lou Elizondo, was talking about this spacecraft that we talked on the show with John Hudson, who is our new UFO reporter that we have, and he'll be on later on in hour 3 tonight. And Daniel Sheehan was talking about this secret aircraft that can fly up to Mach 12 and carry some ridiculous amount of nuclear warheads on it and missiles. Have you heard about this?
No, but I find it unlikely. When you get up to that kind of speed, right? If you're still, inside the atmosphere, the pilot can only withstand so many G's before they black out. If you get to be going that fast, the pilot's going to have problems flying the plane. I mean, if it's a drone, that's one thing. The other thing is that if you're going to carry some ridiculous payload, the amount of fuel consumption to get the plane up to altitude and to get up to be that fast, you're going to be burning water. You're going to be burning fuel like it's going out of style. So you're going to have to keep refueling that thing. And, the next probable answer back is, well, it uses some sort of, nuclear drive or some BS. And it's like, the venerable Stanton Friedman actually became a UFO researcher because he worked on the nuclear power plant program at North American Airlines or North American Aerospace. And they actually canceled that because the amount of shielding required, and even today, the amount of shielding that would be required to secure that engine would make the aircraft so heavy that it can't take off. So, I hear a lot of stories from a lot of people that they claim a lot of things, but, the first thing you got to do is you got to kind of apply the Occam's razor to it. Does it actually make sense to you? I don't know what would kill a pilot, but I'm telling you, at 12 Gs, consistent 12 Gs, that pilot's going to be having problems. Moving the stick, like trying to fly the plane. If it's a drone, I get it, but with a human pilot, 12 Gs would be a lot. That'd be a lot.
But what if we've beaten that?
Oh, you mean some sort of an inertial dampening system like Star Trek?
Yes.
It's possible, and that's something that Lazar had actually claimed, that the Disperser model created when they would engage the anti-gravity system. They actually created like this sphere, like bluish sphere around it, and then that actually would cancel out like inertia. And so when they would move around, there'd be no relative G-force to the pilots, that they would just like move it around. And that's actually consistent with what I saw with my own eyes. I've seen multiple times, I've seen objects making strange maneuvers. Like I told you, they were making triangles and squares. They were making shapes like letters. It was really bizarre. And you would need that to pull that off. So it's possible, but that's not an aircraft at that point. That's some sort of a vehicle. To call it an aircraft would be incorrect.
What about these black triangles that are said to travel to the moon and potentially Mars?
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I saw one night when I was coming home from my job, I have a day job like everybody else. And one night I was coming home rather late at about 2 a.m. because we had a project. And I saw one the size of a football field descend through a cloud layer at about 3,000 feet over my head. So I know they're real. And it was silent, made no noise. I could see the rivets. I knew it was human-made. But, yeah, I don't doubt it. The key is to escape, is to achieve escape velocity and get out of the Earth's gravity. Once you can get out into space, then, you can do all sorts of crazy stuff. But, no, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. We've been talking about black triangles since the late 80s. When they had the ones that flew over Europe. And they would oddly fly along like roadways, and then they would stop and shine lights into graveyards and do all kinds of weird stuff. But the Belgian UFOs of the late 80s, early 90s, we've been talking about it since then. So I figured just seeing it being operationalized.
That would be one giant base to hide a craft of that size. Because I've seen a couple of black triangles. But, people have claimed, including myself, anecdotally, that some of these triangles are as big as cities, man.
It's possible.
So, I don't see something the size of a city being of human manufacture. Why?
We build aircraft carriers. An aircraft carrier is like a small city, small town.
Well, I realize that, but it's still only 1,100 feet, not miles long.
Yeah, but why can't we build something miles long? Why are we incapable of it? We're not incapable of it. See, that's the one thing that I really hate about ufology. Like, I love, talking about weird planes and are they ultra-terrestrials? Are they human? What are they? Let's have that debate. But the one thing that I hate about ufology is when people say, the ancient aliens BS of, oh, we couldn't have built that. Well, sure we could have. I'll be damned if we couldn't build it. I mean, we absolutely can. If we really want to, we can probably build almost anything. I mean, think about it, right, Dave? In the 1960s, right, they had just created the transistor radio. In the 1960s. It's 2020. So what is that, 60 years later? Right? You know, it's like we have internet. We have internet beamed down to us in Starlink from you know, constellations of satellites. Like we can, and this is just the commercial stuff. You know, we can, you know, if you fly on a 757 airplane, a Boeing 757, if they hit full speed, that commercial airliner is doing like 0.8, Mach 0.8. It's almost at Mach 1. That's just the commercial airliner. You know, the publicly stated max speed as the SR-71 was what, Mach 3? You know, we knew it went way, it went way beyond that. But, you know, it's like we can do all this crazy stuff, but we can't build something in space that's a mile long. I mean, we've built islands that are, you know, what is it? Not Narita. Is it Narita? The one airport in Tokyo? I think it is Narita. It's built on an artificial island. The whole airport is. You know? I mean, we're totally capable of it. I don't like the fact that people try to marginalize what we're capable of and say, well, you know, there's no way we could build something a mile long. I'll be damned if we couldn't do it. Of course we can. It's like saying we couldn't build the pyramids. Absolutely we could build the pyramids. There's nothing, you know, archaeologically limiting that says we couldn't have done it. Now, was it a good use of you know, human resources and human energy to do? You know, that you can argue, but we're perfectly capable of doing it. We don't need a spaceship. There are things that are weird. I grant you that. I studied archaeology. I get it. But, you know, things like building a mile-long aircraft, especially if we do it in space, we could totally do it.
Okay, so if we're building a craft that's a mile long, where the hell do you park something like that? 'Cause
in orbit.
In orbit.
Yeah.
So it never comes down.
If it's a mile long, the amount of energy that would be required to get up and down from the surface of the Earth would be incredibly limiting. Because it's just so big that it requires so much energy and so much, you know, power to like raise it off the ground to escape gravity. It wouldn't be worth it. That's the kind of thing you put in space. And if you believe in Solar Warden and all that, you know, supposedly we have tons of vehicles up there doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So, you know, if a mile long triangle, you know, that's not beyond the pale, especially if you buy into Solar Warden.
Well, when we get back from the break that we're going to go to here in about a minute, we're going to talk about Solar Warden because
Sure.
This may add to a lot of the questions that people will have for you as you crack open another Dr. Pepper here. I know you're cracking open a Dr. Pepper because you don't drink.
You can also see me. I'm on cam.
Well, I could just recognize the sound.
You know, you're the only person that I would do video for. Like, whenever I do shows, I always turn the camera off. But for you, Dave, I did it.
Well, I appreciate that, and our YouTube crowd appreciates that as well because you are one of the best here when it comes to all this weird woo. And
bring it on.
One of our listeners in the chat room goes by Solar Warden, too.
Yeah, I saw that.
So he's like, talk about me, love me,
love me,
need me. And, Olav, it's always a good time when you were on Spaced Out Radio. I love having you here, my friend. And
I love being on.
And I got to tell all of our audience, too, if you ever get a chance to meet up with Olav, he is literally one of the nicest people in this field. He really is. He is a giant teddy bear. And I mean a giant when I tell you that. He's like
6'3".
He's 6'3", and he's a very, very good man. And you'd be all the better off in your life meeting a guy like Olav Phillips. That is for sure. Paranoia Magazine editor Olav Phillips is with us. We're going to get into Solar Warden. What's it all about? What are they flying? What are they hiding up in space? Who is they? Olav's going to continue to roast some marshmallows. I'm going to continue to be jealous here at SOR headquarters. I got a good story for you when we get back on Spaced Out Radio. Next. Although I'm going to run my dogs outside. I'll be right back, but
I'll be here.
You can chat with the audience. I'll put you on full screen if you want. Let them watch you, because they're all interested in watching you roast marshmallows right now. Hey, Chillin' Villain, how you doing? Mike Mars, thank you for joining our chat room. Really appreciate you, man. Thank you. I'll be right back.
Talk about me, love me. You guys are too funny. Uh-oh. Only one piece of wood left. Be right back.
All right. I am back. Did Olav go off camera? Really?
Just for a minute. Just for a minute.
Did you get shy? Bonjour,
No.
Jean-Paul. How are you?
Just for a minute.
You're killing me here. Killing me. Those stunning...
I'm checking my messages.
Those stunning good looks. Sensational Sherry, how are you?
I don't know. I'm not feeling the love, Dave.
Oh, I'm feeling the love. Don't make me break into song.
I think you need a break in a song, Dave.
No.
You're like, I like you, Olaf, but I don't like you that much.
Oh, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. Come on.
Now I'm trying to disengage it. Well, it's not letting me disengage it.
Well, what'd you bugger it up for?
Well, there we go.
There we go. Hey, Flat Earther, thank you for that super chat, man. Really do appreciate that.
It seems to be flaking out.
Oh, here, let me try that. I'll re-add you. There you go.
That's better. All right.
Yeah, we got 1 minute here.
Well, that's enough time for another marshmallow.
It totally is time for another marshmallow. You totally should put one on.
I am.
Drew Morris, what's happening, man? Thank you for coming on in.
Yeah, I've never done your show while roasting marshmallows. This is a good idea.
Yeah. Mennonite Abe, I can't sing the song until Mr. Cowley comes in. Hey, Maraud's Haunted Journeys, how you doing? Tony D, how are you? Is Mr. Cowley in here? I haven't seen him. Media Fox, good to see you. War Eagle, good to see you. All right, big thank you to that. Flat, Wayland, Black, Dragon ×2, Space Cow, Sunny, and Chad for the amazing super chats. Here we go with hour 2. Horns up, everyone.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. A Kaleobian. I'd probably butchered that, but a Kaleobian is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with our good friend Olav Phillips out of Paranoia Magazine, and he is wearing his best Carhartt outfit tonight while roasting marshmallows and talking about all the weird and strange woo that is out there. Olav, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure when you are here, my friend. The program Solar Warden, for people who are very unfamiliar with it, what is this program?
So there's actually 2 different Solar Wardens, right? So one is the one that is Gary McKinnon, and this is the story of the hacker from England, and he broke into a bunch of, NASA servers and defense contractor servers, and he was looking for UFO stuff, and what he found was, a bunch of movement orders and other miscellaneous stuff related to this mysterious space fleet called Solar Warden. And they were up there floating around, going out to Mars and the moon, and going out to the edge of the solar system, and just doing, general wackiness out in space. The second one refers to a program that I heard about that I was told by a retired aerospace engineer at the end of a radio show, where in the mid-1970s, I mean, 75 or 76, down in Palm Desert, they built a 3-satellite constellation. 2 were put into equatorial orbit. They were defense satellites with lasers and stuff, and then the third one was like a hunter-killer that could actually move around. So there were 2 different, 2 different satellites in that one, and there's 2 different stories as far as which Solar Warden you want to hear about.
Well, let's start off with the first one that you heard about.
Okay. What do you want to know?
Well, what's it about? Go into detail about it.
Well, it's a space fleet. I mean, it really comes down to that. They called Gary McKinnon a terrorist, and they wanted to extradite him out of England and take him to Guantanamo to interrogate him. And they classified him as an actual terrorist. It was so bad that it was one of those, I think, rare situations where the English refused to actually allow the extradition. I mean, I remember when I lived in England, they used to say that if America catches a cold, England coughs.
Right.
And so, the idea that the English judiciary system, prevented the extradition. And one of the things they stated specifically is that in no way what he did, amount to anything that resembled being a terrorist. And they didn't like the idea that he was literally going to be sent to Guantanamo. Because the U.S. government literally was like, we're going to send you to Guantanamo. And so, he broke into, I think, 12 or 24 computer systems. And he found a bunch of really strange stuff, and he printed it out. But, and it's just a very interesting story because it's like he found mundane stuff. It was nothing like he found some strange pictures, I think, but it was nothing like, you'd expect like big schematics of underground bases and videos of abductions or anything like that. He literally found like a bunch of ships that don't actually exist requesting like more canned fruit.
And the second program?
The second program was a Star Wars defense system where it was two killer satellites put in equatorial orbit that were designed to shoot down, Russian or Soviet at the time missiles or other objects coming in from space. And then a third one, there was a hunter killer that was actually autonomous that would break away from the other two and just kind of fly around blowing stuff up in orbit.
That sounds like fun. Like one giant video game.
Well, I mean, it all is. They say drone warfare is like playing video games. I would love to sit in that cargo container. Because, they sit in cargo containers when they fly this stuff. So, air-conditioned cargo containers. Oh, yeah, they get them right out of flight school. They're like, oh, you're a mediocre pilot. You fly drones now.
Well, I heard for a while, and I actually saw an article on this, a video on this, pardon me, that the United States military was actually looking to hire professional gamers to fly the drones because they were so in depth with video games and had such control that it was a hell of a lot cheaper than training pilots when you could hire these gamers, pay them a good military wage.
Ooh, not a good wage. Don't pay the military well here.
But either way, they would pay them.
I mean, you're 18, right? You're making a lot of money, sure.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying though is, because their minds had been, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Conditioned.
Thank you. Conditioned for killing in a lot of video games. That to them, seeing real humans on the screen was just like playing video games and taking out Taliban on Call of Duty or something along those lines.
Well, yeah, and a lot of the video games like Call of Duty and others, they have missions where you're flying drones. So it's, I mean, I saw that article too. I mean, with the drones, you've kind of taken the depersonalization of warfare, a step beyond. I remember, hearing stories when I was a kid in Boy Scouts. All the scout leaders of my troop, they were all Vietnam vets, and they would tell you these stories about being, gunners and helicopters and marching through the jungle, and these firefights and terrible things that happen. But it happened to them as people, like they were there. The guy was, when the engine got blown out and they went into auto rotation, my assistant scoutmaster was hanging on to his M60 as the thing was swinging around. Going down into a rice paddy, like that happened to him. But the minute you introduce something like a drone, you depersonalize the warfare. The pilots literally in Nellis, in Vegas, doing something at the time in Kandahar, in Afghanistan, or in Yemen, or wherever. They're thousands and thousands of miles away that they're completely disconnected from the combat. So it becomes very much. This is the argument for Ready Player One, right? That you've turned warfare into video games.
Okay, so with the fact that if the Solar Warden activities are continuing here and are being used as a part of war training for whatever battle may come next,
Right.
Does that fall, whose budget would that fall under? Would that fall under military defense spending? Would it fall under the CIA or some other alphabet agency?
No, I would imagine that it falls under, because remember, it's not just us, right? We're just one part of it. It was a NATO thing. So I would imagine that it's some black project inside of the utterly massive military budget. Think about it for a minute, right? That we just pulled out of Afghanistan, and every news operation is decrying the chaos and whatever. But one of the things they keep talking about is that for 20 years we spent over $90 billion to train the Afghani army. That's $90 billion, right? If we could spend $90 billion over 20 years to fight in Afghanistan, if we wanted to put a 1 mile long super star destroyer in the sky, we could hide the money. And back when I was a kid, there was a huge scandal where they were coming after like Lockheed and Boeing and stuff for selling, $1,000 toilet seats. In actuality, what they were doing is that they were selling them a $20 toilet seat and keeping $900 of that $1,000 toilet seat for black projects. That they were using that money to subsidize it and to hide it. So, our understanding of the financing is very complex. The other thing that I heard that's actually kind of stunning is that I was told one day by somebody who should know that when they go like invade Saddam Hussein's house and they recover millions and millions of dollars in money, that some of the intelligence operations like the NSA, the CIA, the NRO, the National Geospatial Agency, and others, the NGA, this is particular to the NSA, when they would get some of this money from when they capture it from Saddam Hussein or whatever, they would actually take that black money and they would invest it in the stock market. And I would point out that in the stock market, the rule of thumb is that whatever you invest, if you can pull, I think, an 8% return, every 8 years your money doubles. So if you think that they put in, let's say 30 years ago, they put in 20 million, and if it doubles every 8 years for the last 20 years, it would have doubled almost 3 times.
That's
so
amazing.
that 20 million would be hundreds of millions. So, they have a bunch of different crazy ways that they fund their various programs, none of which we have access to.
Media Fox is asking, how come we never went back to the moon? Never good footage, and no country has wanted to go besides drones.
Well, the Chinese do. The Chinese have a real burning desire to go there. But I think it's because it's not a high priority. I know it's going to sound a little crazy, but I think we're already there. And it's like, why go back there if we're already there? We could spend the money to entertain the public some other way. Because remember, when you think about it, right, if what I believe is true, then everything that you see NASA do, it's just public entertainment. That what the military is doing is way beyond anything that NASA cooked up.
What's your impression of NASA coming out and, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, stating that they are now going to get into the UFO game and participate in these studies of UAP?
I think it's irrelevant. I think it's utterly irrelevant. I think the whole UAP thing is a sham. I mean, they don't look from orbit, right? When I was a kid in junior high school, I did a paper on the Cold War on surveillance satellites. They're called Keyhole satellites. I went to the library and I looked up this book, and this book had a representation, and this is in the 80s. This is in the this is in the late 1980s. Okay, they showed there was a simulation of a Keyhole satellite, and it started out by showing the Western Hemisphere. Then it kind of drilled down to North America, drilled down to like the United States, the Western states, kept drilling down until eventually it got to California. Then it kept drilling down until it got to San Jose. Then it kept drilling down until you saw a guy laying in a hammock. Then it drilled down to when you saw the guy laying in the hammock, and he had a book on his chest that was open, and it was War and Peace, and you could actually read the lines off the book. That was in the late 1980s. Think of what it can do now, right? The UAP thing's a sham. If it's extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial, I would suggest to you they already know who they are, right? Or at least know their capabilities. And if it's us, we built it, so we know our capabilities. So either way, I don't think that they're showing you videos of stuff that's already fairly old to them. I mean, if they can track every object that's larger than one, what is it? It's like 1 foot in length. They know exactly what's going in and out of the atmosphere. I mean, they have a term for it. They call them fast walkers. The DSP Defense Detection.
Oh, we lost Olav. We'll have him back here momentarily. I think the reason why we haven't gone back to the moon, and I'll confirm this with Olav when he gets back in here. His signal just kind of dropped out there for a quick second. I think that we may have been told not to go back. I mean, realistically.
There we go.
Olav, let me ask you this, because I was just starting to bring this up.
Sorry about that. My phone crashed.
That's okay. What about the idea that maybe we were told not to go back to the moon?
It's possible. I mean, if you follow the extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial hypothesis, it is absolutely possible. And then, that gets in the whole, Apollo 20 thing and, things that are on the moon, the claims that John Lear makes about the moon and other things. So it's totally possible that if there are extraterrestrials there, then they told us not to go back and to skip the moon. And so we said, okay, that's cool. We're going to send a suicide mission to Mars. Although we're already on Mars, I think.
Really? Why do you think we're on Mars?
Well, if nothing else, there are very enigmatic objects that you find occasionally on the Martian surface. In fact, in my book, I reprinted a NASA photo from Mars that was done by Mars Global Surveyor. And I show the photo to people and I ask them what they think it is, and they think it's like some rich dude's house in Malibu. It's actually some sort of a structure on the side of a massive canyon on Mars, not far from Olympus Mons. There's a kind of weird kind of graveyard-looking thing near the poles where all these geometric shapes like rectangles are coming out of the ground. I mean, there's a bunch of really strange stuff there. In fact, even what's his name? He was the pilot for the Apollo program, Apollo mission. Buzz Aldrin. Even Buzz Aldrin made a comment on C-SPAN about things being on Mars. So I think we've been there. I think we go there. I think we are there. So it doesn't. But I don't know if somebody told us not to go there. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I can see why, for public consumption, that they don't bother.
So would somebody like Elon Musk not be read into what's happening on Mars if we already have people there?
Oh, I doubt Elon Musk is being read into anything. Number one, if I recall, he's not a U.S. person. He's not a U.S. citizen. So according to our laws in the United States, if you're doing defense work, you have to be a U.S. person. So, people who are resident, have a residency status or, green cards and other stuff, they can't get security clearances. So I doubt. The one thing I would say about Elon Musk, though, is that a lot of the stuff that Elon Musk is coming in, like the tube train thing, like, and a lot of these other ideas. These are literally being rated out of Rand. There's a thing called the Rand Corporation. They're a think tank. A lot of these programs that Musk is thinking up are actually ex-Rand projects, like I forget what they call it, but the hypertube, that was a Rand project from the 70s. So it's like somebody gave him the key to the Rand vault.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just going through and building. In fact, there's these old Gene Roddenberry stories where they actually have the hypertubes. I forget the name of them. It's I'll find it for you, but it's basically, there was this guy. He was played by John Saxon. He was like a NASA astronaut, and they were testing, like, put him into suspended animation. And so they put the guy into suspended animation, and then there was like some sort of cataclysm, like a war. And then he wakes up like hundreds of years later, and like the whole Earth is like reset. But they actually travel around in like the hypertubes. And they have a map of the entire hypertube network that matches what like Musk wanted to do. It's like right out of a Gene Roddenberry story.
Olav Phillips is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Nolan over on Twitch is asking, do you think there are ETs on the dark side of the moon?
No, I don't. But John Lear sure does, but I don't. I disagree. I think if they were on the dark side of the moon, I don't think we'd allow them to be there. I think we have a lot more power in this whole program than we give ourselves credit for. I think a lot of ufologists like sell us short and what we're capable of doing. But no, I don't.
The moon, Mars. Do you think humans have touched soil on any other planet or moon in our solar system?
I do. I think they've been to Phobos, some of the moons of Mars. I think they've been to some of the moons of Jupiter. Like Europa, Io, Iapetus. I'm not beyond. Hoagland used to make an argument that like Iapetus was like an artificial moon, and there have been theories that our moon is artificial for decades. But the statements by Buzz Aldrin indicated that there was some sort of an ancient object on Phobos. So it's possible that we've gone kind of treasure hunting, looking for stuff on these other moons and planets. I think the Buzz Aldrin comment was pretty fascinating, but he made it seem like these things were extremely old.
Okay. I like Uncle Dale's comment here, as we got about 90 seconds to go. He says, there is a difference between science and science fiction. A lot of people will say that what you're saying is quite science fiction. What's your thoughts on this? Dale's a scientist, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. I think when you how do I put this? I think that it sounds like science fiction until you realize that some of these programs are real. That in the late 50s, Project Horizon and Project Lunex promised to put astronauts on the moon by 1961. That the Soviets had a program called Zvezda. We think of that. We think it's science fiction, but the Soviets had manned battle stations called the Almaz series. They had like 6 manned battle stations in orbit around the Earth. For decades. They launched a thing called the Polyus Skiff, which was an automated battle station. With lasers and nuclear weapons and all kinds of stuff. So sure, it's science fiction until we know it's true, and then it becomes science fact. So it may sound like science fiction, it may sound speculative, but I think there's good evidence to indicate that some of these things are actually field deployed.
All right. All right, on that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to take a break here at the bottom of the hour. Olav Phillips from Paranoia Magazine continues to talk weird stuff tonight. We are at Maximum Woo. with our man, Olav Phillips. UFOs, are they ours? Are they theirs? Where have we been? We'll find out next. All right, there we go. We're clear. Hello, gorgeous Amy W.C. So there, where have you been hiding, man? Where have you been hiding? Jazz, it says, you got aliens. You got aliens. That's what my shirt says. Dave wants megalodons with frickin' laser beams. Absolutely I do. Adam Lakatos, what's happening? We are all Chad Smith, people. One way or another, we are all Chad Smith. Oh.
Okay, I'm back.
I'm just showing my shirt off here.
Okay. I'm trying to fire up this wood.
Thank you, Andrew, for making me laugh.
So, Dave, how do I get a fan club like you have? What do I have to do again?
Well, we have to advertise that you're a good-looking guy.
Okay. Is that all that matters?
You've got a great voice, great knowledge.
Okay.
My vape is grape. That's what I'm on right now, grape.
Oh, damn it.
Well, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I know.
You can pull that one off.
Oh, I know.
And restart that one.
I know. I just got it right in time. I got it right in time.
Hello, gorgeous Science Melinda. Eric with a K. We're number 4, buddy. We're number 4.
Okay, it's back in the fire now.
Beauty.
So is it just all about advertising? Like I have to advertise that I'm a good looking woo person?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess I can do that. Yeah, I go to conventions and I see all these people and they have fan clubs basically. I'm like, hey, I want a fan club. I'm nice. I want a fan club, Dave. Oh well, I'll have to keep working on it.
What is cookie butter?
Cookie butter? You never had it?
No.
Oh God, you need to have cookie butter.
Apparently, that's a vape.
Yeah, it's a thing. If it's a thing, they can make a vape out of it.
All right. Let me... you need Olav Phillips t-shirts, too. But you know what this is time for, Olav? It's time for some Mighty Moose beard oil here.
Oh! I love that stuff.
I know you do. I know you are
I'm a fan.
I know you're a fan. And Gary the Dutchman, who's probably sitting quietly at home with cheesy spread all over his belly, sitting at home watching this.
Tell him that I wear that on dates.
Well, I know you do. But Gary the Dutchman, he's a cheap bastard, okay? And he makes this beard oil, and the only real way that we can piss Gary off is by literally using promo code SOR2019. Gary has grinded his teeth every time people have used that promo code at MightyMooseBeard.com because the one thing a Dutchman hates is giving anybody a deal. All right? The Dutch love to screw everybody out of their last penny. It is true. If you go up to a Dutchman and you pat them down, you will find their first dollar. Gary, the Dutchman at Mighty Moose Beard Oil, is no different. But I'm using my favorite here, the Winter Blend, and this stuff smells fantastic.
It
and
does. I use it.
you still have it on your hands. You just rub it into your hair like this. And ladies, it's great for the hair. It's all natural, no chemicals. It helps prevent split ends. Go to MightyMooseBeard.com, piss off Gary the Dutchman, and literally, as of right now, use promo code SOR2019, and he's going to give you a deal. I promise you, he will not screw you over. Let's rock and roll here, everyone. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are in this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you all that you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight. Olav Phillips from Paranoia Magazine. We're talking the dark side of UFOs. All right, Olav, Olav is stoking his fire right now as he's roasting marshmallows.
I'm trying.
And he's not being very successful right now. He's only a quarter outdoorsman. And okay. Most of that is in his clothing because he's a Carhartt addict. Olav, I want to talk to you about UFOs here for a second because obviously that has been in the front lines of discussion here, both in the mainstream and in the paranormal communities for a couple of years now. Now, for you, you've seen UFOs, you've experienced, you've talked to people who have been around them, and I'm curious, how do we know what's a UFO and what is not?
I take it from the point of view of it being an unidentified object that is flying through the air. That doesn't imply that it's aliens or ultra-terrestrials or human or whatever. It's just unidentified and in the air. And I think if we start from the point of view that it's an unidentified object, flying in the air, that's why I don't like UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. Okay, whatever. It's an object. It's a thing. So I like UFO, and I think that if we start from that point of view of not attempting to identify, just say it's weird, it doesn't seem right, that's a good place to start because it puts everything on the table.
Okay. So if we do know that there are UFOs visiting here, how aware or familiar is the United States government about this? And what are they not telling us?
Well, they're not telling us anything. And I think that if whatever they are, I think they know all about it. Because remember, we have an entire defense satellite network that tracks them coming in. They're called DSP satellites. Like, they call them fast walkers. Like, we can see them coming in. There's a big screen at NORAD, and they watch them fly in. And it's like even NASA, like there's a thing called transient light phenomenon that occurs on the moon. They've been tracking it for over 100 years of weird lights moving across the surface of the moon. There's a catalog, right? So, it's not like we don't see these things. So I think that they absolutely see them because we track everything in orbit over, I think, 1 or 2 feet long. So it's not possible that they don't see them. It's just they don't tell us, and I doubt they tell us very much.
I never knew that they're actually tracking them at NORAD.
Oh yeah, there's a NORAD orbital database that you can download, and there you can actually like create models. There's like software you can use that does preemptive calculations on where satellites and space junk is, but I believe it's anything over like 2 feet. It's in the database, and they track it or the orbital movement of it. But yeah, the DSP satellites, they've been up there since the 80s, and I might even be longer, but at least since the 80s, and they track all objects coming into the atmosphere. No, we know exactly where they are.
See, and that's what I don't understand. There are literally tens of thousands of satellites up
Right.
in space right now.
Yep.
And I mean, if you look at a hologram version of these or a digital version of the satellites, I mean, we're jam packed. There is no way, Olav, that any of these satellites is not picking up something cruising through our atmosphere.
No, well, the DSP satellites are designed specifically to detect it. They were originally put out there to detect nuclear missile reentry. So they were supposed to catch the missiles in the arc as they're coming out of Russia to hit us. So yeah, no, absolutely they can see it. And then, all the GPS satellites, they have flash detectors on them looking for nuclear detonations. So, we got all kinds of cameras. That it doesn't even count, the signal intelligence satellites and photographic intelligence satellites that we have up there, that the Soviet or the Russians have, that the English have, the Germans. I mean, we all have spy satellites. So it would be very, very hard. The Chinese, it would be very hard for you to get something in the atmosphere without somebody not seeing it.
Okay, so if our satellites are that tightly close together, and granted space is quite large, we have no idea how large it is.
Right.
Okay, my question for you is this. How are these motherships getting in here through all of those satellites without accidentally colliding into one?
It's about timing, and there's also paths that a lot of the satellites take. It's not like there's just this massive cloud. I mean, there is, but they follow patterns so that they don't collide with each other. So I think it's about timing. I mean, we do rocket launches through it, right? We used to launch a space shuttle through it. The Soviets, the Russians, they launch rockets all the time. Ariane launches them, SpaceX. It's about timing. Well, you have to know where things are.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is that is something with that I'm sorry. Connie in our chat room put, "I'm pregnant with Dave's alien love child." That is
that's
funny.
My love child. That is my love child.
Sorry, apparently I've been named.
That is my love child, Dave.
Wow.
You tell the truth.
Well, if I have to tell the truth, Olav, apparently the truth is going around the internet that I buy followers. That I've not, worked hard to get the followers that we have, so I had to buy them. So apparently all the stories that are on the internet now are true, and Connie in our chat room is apparently pregnant with Dave's, which is my alien love child. That's beautiful. that is absolutely.
What are you going to name him?
I don't know.
Klaatu?
No.
Barry?
We'll figure it out. Maybe Carl. Maybe Carl Jr.
Oh, Carl Jr.
Carl Jr.
Okay.
That's just the way it is. But I appreciate that. I totally forget where I was going now with that topic.
It's all right. Don't worry about it.
It felt good though. That just made me laugh.
You were wondering how they get in here, and I'm telling you that everybody on the face of the earth sees them. So it's not a hidden thing. We know that they're coming. It's not unless they can defeat our systems, which is possible. But if they can't, I mean, even optically, they would have to have some sort of cloaking system, which doesn't mean that they don't. But it would be very hard for them to come in without us knowing.
Very true. Very true. Olav Phillips is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio as we continue on here. You know, Olav, as we look towards everything, I'm going to take a quick break here because I have a really cool story that happened to me right before the show.
Okay.
And I wanted to share it with our audience. So, right before the show, I go outside, and I'm going to quickly run to the store because I was craving some orange juice. I wanted to get some orange juice for the show. And my son, I hear the neighbors, my son's friend lives like 2 doors down. And my neighbor, I could hear them yelling over there. And then my son comes running home on the road, crying his eyes out, and holding his runners. His sneakers. He's running down the road, carrying his sneakers. So I said, okay, son, like, what's going on here? Like, why are you running down the road with your sneakers? Is everything okay? And he screams at me, I had to leave my friends because there was a bear in the backyard where the kids were playing. So I'm like, what? He's like, there was a bear, and it really scared him. So he ran home, right? And so anyways, I walk over to my neighbor's, and sure enough, there is this beautiful black bear on the other side of his fence, hanging on out, sees us, disappears into the gully, then comes back up to see if we're still there. Yep, we're still there. And you can see the frustration on the bear, man. He was just like, oh, come on. So that's what I was doing before the show, is I was chasing around a black bear. And he was camera shy. I went on Facebook Live, tried to get the black bear on there. And, he was pretty camera shy. It was like, come on, puss, let's do this thing. Come on, show me where, for some reason I call every wild animal puss. But that's okay. So that's what I was doing before the show. That's SOR headquarters, right in the middle of nowhere, man. Right in the middle of nowhere. So, anyways, back to UFOs.
It's right where it's supposed to be, Dave.
Yes. Aliens.
Okay.
Let's get into aliens, because I know you love some alien talk every now and again.
Of course.
Olav Phillips, with everything that's going on, with all the UAP talk, a lot of people forget about aliens. Okay. And I'm just curious, with all the alien activity that people are claiming to have, myself included, all anecdotal evidence, of course.
Right.
How do we, or let me rephrase that, do you think that the governments of the world are in contact with the extraterrestrial species who are visiting here?
According to the mythology of ufology, they do. That there's a whole series of contacts that took place. There's the Eisenhower meeting. There's the stories about Krill. There's the alien interview videos. So there's a lot of anecdotal discussion in the mythology of ufology that says yes. So, the majestic documents, the burn memos, there's a lot of kind of evidence out there. Some of it's better than others. It says, yeah, sure, we have communicated with them. I mean, I don't know. It's not something that I could determine one way or the other, because I don't think that there's any evidence. This is true of conspiracies in general. I don't think there's any evidence strong enough that you can 100% concretely say yes to any of it. It depends on what you believe. But, according to John Lear, I love John Lear, but according to John Lear, we have a series of deals with them, and they have a whole, super massive base on the far side of the moon. And, so it really depends on who you talk to.
Have you had alien contact?
It's a funny thing. I've seen UFOs. I've seen UFOs that I believe are not human. I've never consciously seen a UFO or seen an alien. I've had, when I was a kid, I had dreams about it, but I've never knowingly, consciously seen one that I'm aware of. Now, that's not to say that if you believe in the whole Valiant Thor thing, that they're not like walking around and we just don't see them because they look like us. But, grays, anything like that, I've never, to my knowledge, seen one. But again, that doesn't mean that I haven't, I just don't know, or, I saw one, my next door neighbor, right? It's the Monsters on Elm Street. My next door neighbor could be one, and I don't know, although I don't think he is. But it's possible. But I did, when I was young, I had a weird experience, and I did have dreams about it. But I've never been able to determine whether those dreams were real. Because they were dreams.
Oh, okay, so out of all the people out there that claim to have ET contact and everything that's going on, myself included, why do you buy into those stories then?
I think for me, it's the person telling it. Like, I was on the phone with you when you saw Carl.
Yes.
And I know
the second time.
I know what that experience was like, and I know you well enough to know that you were not faking that. I mean, the panic and amazement was tangible. I believe people like Travis Walton, right? I met Travis Walton. He's a very nice guy, and he seems very genuine about it. And really, he tells a story that, frankly, nobody would want to live. And I think in a lot of cases, these moments, like, there are, it's really messed up people's lives. And it's like, if you could get away with not having that happen to you, if you're Travis Walton, he has to live with the fact that this thing happened to him and it messed up his life. And, and I'm sure if you ask Travis Walton, I have never, but I'm sure if you told him that although there are some good parts that came out of it, I would venture to guess that in general, it's not something he would ever want to go through again. I think,
You want to see something cool, totally off topic?
Sure.
All right, this is for our YouTube audience, but I was just telling the story of the black bear. Well, I just noticed on Facebook that my neighbor posted the picture of this guy.
Oh, there you go.
Here, let's take a look here. Hold on. Take a look. There he is.
Oh, wow.
That is literally right across the street from me.
Damn.
Right there. Look, that's a big guy right there.
That is.
Look how healthy he is.
That's good.
He's a big, healthy bear, standing on up. Very cute. Very cute. That's the bear. Cute. So we were chasing this bear around earlier tonight as it scared my son and his friends earlier on. And I just found the photos of the bear that literally right across the street from my house. So that's pretty cool. He's a gorgeous bear. Gorgeous bear. I love bears.
I know you do.
Totally love bears. There's just something very majestic about bears, man. Something very majestic about bears.
There is.
Yeah. Love them. Love them. Yeah, that's probably that tree there that the bear was starting to climb in the photo. You didn't get to see it on the radio side. But on the YouTube side, if you check out the bear, that tree's about 45 feet from my driveway.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of cute. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Yeah. All right, back to aliens. Let's go aliens. We got 5.5 minutes here.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying, right? Is that, I take it all at face value. So if you come to me and you say you've seen aliens, I want to talk about it. I want to hear what you went through. There are things that have happened where I don't think it was aliens. I don't think Betty and Barney Hill met aliens. But I'm pretty sure you did because I was there, on the phone. But
that was a creepy night.
It was. And what you went through in that moment, you couldn't fake that. That it's just not something that you were faking. It was very authentic and legitimate and real. So like I said, for me, I'm always fascinated when people tell me the stories because for me, my belief in it really comes down to the individual. I don't discount anything. So I want to hear, and I'm going to make my judgment based on you as a person. That determines the veracity of it.
Well, you know what? I think the thing with alien contact is the one thing that amazes me is everybody who seems to have contact, Olav, they all have the same message from the extraterrestrials. It's all about the environment, the way we're treating the Earth, the way we have to take control and clean things up, clean up our messes. Have you noticed this as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's been happening since the 50s, in the contactee era. Back then it was, oh, you guys are going to blow yourself up with atomic weapons. And then, later it became, oh, you guys are so warlike. And now it's, oh, you're destroying the environment. And, I don't care if it's Ashtar Command or, the Pleiadians or, whatever. They always have these messages. But it's like they have these messages and they can get us a message, but they're not going to do anything else about it. That just sounds weird to me. I don't know. There are a lot of people, like, it doesn't seem to be authentic when you talk to them. Except for the Unarians. Like, I love the Unarians. The Unarians are the best.
What about everything regarding the Greys and potentially MK Ultra and My Labs?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a whole show in and of itself, this notion that we're abducting people and putting in screen memories of aliens while we perform psychological experiments that are derivatives of MK Ultra. It is completely feasible. Like, you can simulate an abduction experience putting magnets, super powerful magnets against people's heads. You can induce a lot of things. You can induce, like, a spiritual experience. You can induce a near-death experience, You can induce, like, an abduction experience. You can induce all those things. So it's possible to do that. But my lab is very fascinating to me. Because I think the biggest question that I have about my lab is I don't doubt it exists. I actually believe it exists. But why? What's the point? What's really the objective of it? It's a lot of effort. So what are you really trying to do? But yeah, it's and the owls and the screen memories and all that. It's very interesting stuff.
Well, I mean, do you think is there a lot of ideas or reports that is still continuing on today, these MyLab projects?
They're more sporadic now. I think there's a lot less, from what I've seen, there's a lot less discussion about abductions. A lot of it is more about these vehicles. Because, I mean, we've kind of, with the whole UAP thing, we're not talking a lot about things like abductions. We're talking more about, like, the vehicles themselves, which is interesting because, for a long time, cattle mutilations and abductions were really, like, the go-to for everything. You had Bud Hopkins out there. You had, Whitley Strieber and David Jacobs and others, John Mack. Once John Mack, he passed away and, and the other guys, they kind of really stopped pushing it as much. The kind of human zeitgeist of the abductions kind of died down. I mean, right now it's all about vehicles, right? It's all about the Tic Tac and whatever. So they're really focusing on vehicles at the moment. But it goes through phases.
But they don't want to talk about aliens because they feel that the public is not ready for aliens.
No, there was actually, we should probably do a show on it, but there was actually a thing called Cosmic Journey where this guy, Bob Oshler, he actually eventually, I think, moved to Canada, but he, there's a whole thing where he was, like, brought in via Timothy Good to, like, prepare a, like a road show where they were going to have semis. They were going to have, like, alien bodies and stuff in it, and it was supposed to be like a disclosure event. And he had video, videos that they had produced, like B-rolls and stuff for it. And he had these conversations with Bobby Ray Inman, who had been head of the CIA, Admiral Bobby Ray Inman, about, like, doing this project called Cosmic Journey. So, yeah. I mean, that makes me think that aliens are real, too.
Well, let's hold that thought right there, because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. We got Olav Phillips from Paranoia Magazine, UFO Talk, Black Projects, whatever we can jam in the final half hour with Olav. Then we got John Hudson with the Unbiased UFO Report next. I'm going to test my theory here, Olav.
Okay.
Because my yard is haunted.
Really?
Yes. I have seen the ghost of the man who lives in my backyard.
Who is he?
His name is Rick. Richard is his name. His name is Rick.
Okay.
And the time I saw him, he was wearing a white T-shirt, light blue jeans, and white sneakers.
You know what we should do, Dave? We should try to contact him live on the air.
Well, no. He's busy right now. He's busy right now because he asked me if he could when I had a psychic chatting with him. He asked me if he could stay, and I said only if you keep the bears out of the property.
Okay.
And so what's going to be real interesting, and I get really geeked out for it, is this bear was seen right across the street. I showed you the pictures.
Yeah.
My garbage cans are like close by there.
Sure.
So if my garbage cans, which have garbage in them, are not knocked over tomorrow morning, I know Rick does his job.
Okay. You know what we should do is in October, we should use an SB7. Mm-hmm. You should wire it into the board. And we should try to contact the Zodiac Killer.
Oh, how can I do that? Hold on.
We should do that. You know what else we can do with an SB7? We should try to talk to aliens. Because you know it'll work for that.
Mm-hmm. Good idea.
You know what I'm talking about, right? The frequency skipper one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Dave, you know what we should do?
What?
Do you have any listeners that are like electrical engineers?
I don't know. I think Uncle Dale was, but he's gone home or kept it down for the night.
You should try to get one of your people to make the Tesla Ghost Box.
I think Merle has one.
Get it in your hand, wire it into your board. And you should try to talk to dead people.
I never have luck with those. I have an SB7 here in my house.
You need the right guy on the phone.
Oh, it never works for me.
Oh, it'll work. You need the right person to do it with you.
James Davies, how are you? Chad, Chad Smith is asking, what's the frequency, Kenneth?
I always love that.
I love this comment from Evan. This guy's basement is probably fascinating.
Mine?
Yeah.
I don't have a basement. We don't have basements here.
How come?
I don't know, but we don't build basements in our houses. I have a shed.
You're a shed guy.
Yeah, I have a shed. This guy. That's awesome. I want to be this guy.
You're this guy.
No, but if you know what, I bet you get somebody like Green. Oh, we'll talk later. I have an idea.
I know what it is. And my answer is yes.
I have an idea.
Yeah. Get Greenfield on for Halloween.
More than just Greenfield. I got an idea.
Yes.
He'll do it.
I'm very game to get Greenfield on for leading up to Halloween.
Oh yeah. I think there's something pretty, he
Hi, gorgeous Selena. How are you?
He once went on another radio show, and he opened a portal. He did an Enochian spell and opened a portal over the radio station, blew the transmitter offline.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's get
Alan on.
Yeah, we're gonna need Alan on.
I think you are.
Yeah.
He'll do it.
I know he will.
He might even do video too.
I hope so. He's got fantastic hair.
He does. Yeah, I'll be a bishop soon. He's going to consecrate me. I never talked to you about magic stuff.
I know.
It's all a secret space program.
Always. It's all we ever say. That's because I love this topic, man.
I know.
And there's so few who will
do it.
Who will do it.
Oh, I wrote books on it. I need to write another book.
Yeah, let's write a book.
Okay.
James Davies, we're right in the middle of redoing our store for our new website. And once that's up and running, we'll have some really cool swag there with the SOR logo and everything. So we will make sure we get that up for you, okay? So just be patient, and we'll get some stuff out there pretty soon. Appreciate you, man.
Yes, I have an idea. I think you'll like it. Good fall stuff. Super good. I think you'll love it.
You know, anything Greenfield, man, I'm game. I am totally game.
Yeah.
Yes, and if you haven't read the Secret Cipher of the UFO Knots, you need to. All right, we got 12 seconds here. Thank you, Justin, Flat Earther, Waylon, Black Dragon, Space Cow, Sonny, and Chad for the super chats. Here we go with hour 3, everyone. Horns up.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club at Keyhole. I know I pronounced that wrong, but that's your password for tonight as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we bring in from Paranoia Magazine, Mr. Olav Phillips is here. He's been roasting marshmallows all night long, talking some UFOs, aliens, and secret programs that are not to be discussed. But he's in here like a dirty shirt doing it, a dirty Carhartt shirt. Olav, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Greetings and salutations, my friend.
Greetings and salutations.
Love that line. Love that line. Right before the break, we started talking about programs like MK Ultra and My Labs. Why would the government want to abduct citizens?
You know, it's a good question. I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, I do. You know, they did some pretty crazy stuff, especially around Ultra. You know, when they were doing Ultra, they had a thing called Operation Midnight Climax, where they ran a brothel in San Francisco, and they actually would dose the prostitutes, would get the Johns to come up to the room, and then they had a two-way mirror, and they would observe it, and they would dose the Johns with water laced with LSD, and then they would interrogate them. Then eventually they realized that wasn't working so well, and this guy actually jumped out a window. So then they kind of switched it, and the guy that ran the program actually turned it into like a sex warfare program and wrote a manual for the CIA on sex warfare. So they do some around things like Ultra, like they do some really strange things. But I guess the impetus would be that they could take people and do whatever they wanted and then implant these screen memories. And then, you know, they're kind of like the person, when they get done, they're so confused that there's no way to track down what really happened. Were they abducted by aliens? Were they abducted by the CIA? Who knows? So,
really, but taking people, most of the people who got taken by these, they also allege to have extraterrestrial contact as well. So, what would be the purpose of that?
Maybe to test information distribution. Because look, let's say that, and I'm not minimizing anybody who has had an abduction experience. That's not my intent. But this is a very specific thing. So let's say that I get abducted by MilLab and they do their experiments on me and they release me back into the wild, so to speak. And I go and tell everybody, look, I got abducted by aliens and I had this like experience. And meanwhile, the CIA is tracking it, saying, okay, we released this person back into the wild with this story that we planted in their head. Can we weaponize this? So I think that's probably part of the impetus. Because if I go back and I say, I got abducted by aliens, and suddenly everybody's like, oh, you got abducted by aliens, I want to hear all about that. Then they start believing that the person got abducted by aliens, and the CIA knows that they planted the memory. They're perfecting their ability to plant memories in people's heads. But it's part of a larger program.
But Olav, how would they know who's been abducted and who hasn't?
The CIA?
Yes.
Well, if you're talking about MilLab, they did it. So, of course they know because they actually did the abducting. If you're talking about aliens, I don't know. Maybe they can track the implants. I don't know how they would know. If the aliens didn't tell them, I don't know how they would know who got abducted and who didn't.
See, this is where, to me, it opens up a plethora of conspiracies.
Sure.
On what is real, what is fake, what does the government know, what do they not know,
right,
regarding everything. And
sure.
For me, when I look at something like my labs, because most people who have my labs or MK Ultra always seem to be in contact or have had extraterrestrial contact as well.
Well, not all people who are part of Ultra. Ultra is a very different thing. Ultra is mind control. So when you're, when like the person that I talked to, who was an actual, and I met them through my friend, the people actually that I've talked to that were part of Ultra, or some derivative of Ultra, some modern derivative, because Ultra was shut down, but some modern derivative of it. Usually they tend to have been trained as like an assassin or, some kind of a sleeper agent or something like that. So they have a different tasking, because this is kind of the Manchurian Candidate thing, right? But they like, one person that I met through my friend, she claimed that she was brainwashed to become, an assassin, and that she was actually, her genetics were messed with, and she had, genetics of a kind of animal, put into hers, and, she was part, like, I want to say cheetah, and it sounds nuts, but when you listen to her story, it's actually very interesting because of the things that she says about what she was tasked to do. Right. And then, another person, then there's the, Kathy O'Brien, and she was turned into like a sex slave and some other things. So, when you get into Ultra and Artichoke and Monarch especially it's very scary, but that's a really interesting implementation of MK Ultra. But again, it doesn't have anything to do with aliens.
Okay, so if you stick with MK Ultra, that almost sounds like something right out of the Bourne Identity.
Yeah, the Bourne Identity is what it would be if it was a real thing. The Bourne, and it may be. There are discussions about super soldier programs, right? That is something that is more about brainwashing, right? And in some cases, advanced training or actually like manipulation of their biology. And when you think about that, right, just remember that, I don't know if they did it this year, but the last time we had the Olympics, the Chinese got into trouble because they had actually genetically engineered their swimmers to have like webbed toes and webbed feet so they could swim faster. And like the East Germans had an entire doping program that they had done, and they had like mentally conditioned their athletes to be able for higher endurance levels. So, these are things, and that was just for the Olympics. So there are cases where they do this stuff, and it's very, very well known.
Very true. Very true. But for those, okay, so the MyLabs, how do you think the MyLabs know that these people have been abducted? I mean, this is what...
Well, because they did it, right? The concept of MyLab is that, okay, Dave, I'm going to abduct you, but I'm a military unit that's abducting you, not aliens. MyLab has nothing to do with aliens. So I bring you out to my black site in the desert, maybe in the desert of Nevada. Maybe I take you, what is it, Cold Lake, I think? Maybe I take you to Cold Lake or some black site up in the Yukon or the Northwest Territories, and I condition you to be, a sleeper assassin, and I put a trigger word in there. The trigger word is like bunny rabbit. So whenever you hear the word bunny rabbit, you want to blow stuff up. That's how that works. But in order to justify your disappearance and reemergence, I put a screen memory in. I program you to think you were abducted by aliens.
Very true.
That's how MyLab works.
That is true. Okay,
Right.
So, but what I'm saying, though, is it opens up an entire bank to the conspiracies, whether,
Sure.
the government has a list of everybody who's been taken. That would
Right.
mean that they have some sort of way to either detect or have been told by extraterrestrials whom they're taking.
And some people believe that they're actually the governments of the world are being told by the extraterrestrials, and that they worked out a deal. One of the theories is that they worked out a deal with the extraterrestrials to trade a certain number of people that are abducted and tracked for advanced technology. That's one of the theories out there.
Yeah, that would go along with Eisenhower's Greada Treaty.
Correct.
Do you believe that treaty is real?
No. Because I don't believe that we have anything that they want. If we're real, or if that's real, I don't think that there's anything that we could really offer them that they couldn't just take by themselves. And there's no evidence that they directly interface with any governmental agency. In fact, if you look at actual UFO abductions and UFO activity, it's harder now because everybody has a camera on their phone, but they tend to be very aloof. And the abductions are very strange. You take the Cash Lindstrom incident, that was kind of like, it wasn't so much an abduction, it was more like an accidental contact, right, where they melted the top of.
Oh, we lost Olav again. His phone keeps having a few issues. That's okay. He'll jump back in here momentarily as we have Olav Phillips from Paranoia Magazine on tonight discussing aliens technology. And here's Olav back here.
Sorry.
No problem, Olav.
But the Cash Lindstrom incident, they melted the top of the car. Betty Cash and I forget the other one, Lindstrom, her name, but they developed, radiation. All three of the kid and the two women, they had radiation sickness, and eventually the two women developed cancer, like ovarian cancer. So, but that was more like accidental, right? So and the Travis Walton story, a lot of these abductions, it's out in the middle of nowhere, they don't really care what you want or don't want. They just it's an abduction. They take you, they do what they want. In some cases, people come back and say, I had this shocking revelation that we need to fix the environment, or nuclear weapons are bad, or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And that is something that we need to be able to really tie into, Olav, when we are
Right.
looking at the entire phenomena, because if there is a list, if the government knows, this could be part of the secrets why they only went back to the Nimitz incident on the DNI report.
Right, and I think the DNI report was a sham. I think they only went back to the Nimitz because they didn't want to go back and justify, 80 years of covering stuff up. So that's the one thing that's always fascinating, that, that way back in the day that John Lear had an interview with with Art Bell, and Art Bell was all about disclosure, and John Lear said, "Are you really sure you want that?" And Art Bell, of course, answered, "Yes, yes, yes. I want disclosure. I want disclosure." And so, John Lear went through this 20-minute tirade about them covering up murders and deaths and mayhem and destruction and all this stuff. And when he got done, he went, "So Art, do you still want disclosure?" And Art Bell was like, "No, I don't want it. Just keep it a secret. I don't want to know that stuff's happening." So, it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Do you think disclosure is dangerous?
I think it could be. I think that it could be. I think I think that right now in the world there's a lot of radicalization, whether it's political radicalization, spiritual radicalization, religious radicalization. We can't, in the United States, we can't even make our government work right. So if you introduce aliens into this, what's going to happen? Right. So, and I think you've got the Chinese in an expansion mode. You've got the Russians in an expansion mode. Everybody's messing with everybody's elections. Everybody's doing, and it's a very unstable COVID. It's a very unstable time. So I don't think that people could really rationalize that as well. You go from in 18 months, right? You go from everything's fine to having shortages where I go to the store and I literally cannot buy food. There's no toilet paper anywhere, which seems ridiculous, but it's a fundamental thing that everybody wants. And then, we have this tumultuous political environment. And then it's like, oh, by the way, aliens are real and we don't know what the hell they are. And they're just flying around, taking people up into their ships and anal probing them. I don't think people would react well to that now. On our best day a few years ago, when everybody was pretty happy with each other, yeah, maybe we could do fine. But today, I think it would be a disaster.
Well, we need the cancel culture to come on in and cancel the aliens from the anal probing.
I think more likely, they would descend on the White House lawn and the Republicans would blame the Democrats that it was some sort of socialist trick, and the Democrats would blame the Republicans and tell them that they're whack jobs about it, and everybody would just argue. There's so much divisiveness. It shouldn't be that way. We're all people. We should all just love each other, but we don't, and there's a lot of divisiveness. And I think that it would really screw things up if they did it right now.
You never know. You never know, my friend.
True.
But how do you try and put trust in anything that John Lear says?
So, a wise man who I know once told me, he said, I asked him, I said, and he was involved in the intelligence world. And I asked him, I said, well, how do you determine what's true and what's not true? Right? And he says, you can't. You can't really tell what's true and not true because you never know what the starting point and ending point of it is. So he's like, for me personally, if you come to me and you tell me that the sky is orange, I'm going to believe you until I go outside and look and see the sky's not orange. That he's like, I take the point of view, this is an intelligence officer. He's like, I take the point of view that you're telling the truth until I can prove you otherwise. And he said, but that being said, I don't trust you. I don't trust anybody. So that's kind of where I come at it from. I believe that if somebody who's listening to the show right now sends me an email and tells me about their abduction experience, number one, I would love that because I'm always interested in that kind of stuff. But because, I like stories and I want to hear about it and, I want to try to figure out what's going on. But if you come and tell me that you had an abduction.
Olav's phone just not working. It's not working. We know we'll get him back here momentarily. Olav Phillips from Paranoia Magazine talking about abductions right now. Hopefully his phone didn't die for good. We'll try and get him back on here momentarily. I know he's probably working on it right now. But, the idea that, when you have abductions happening to people, maybe it's aliens. Maybe it's aliens and knocked them off. You never know. See, that's the beauty of this show. There is probably something logical that happened. All right? Let's just be honest. There is logical things that happen. But isn't it more fun to say that, Olav got knocked off because of aliens rather than cell phone issues. It's much more fun. Much more fun to say that. That's what I'm going to believe. Why? Because A, I have no proof, and B, it's much more fun. That's how we build the woo around here. Olav Phillips disappearing. I wonder, I think his battery probably died. I bet you he has one of those phones that, even though you have it on the charger, it still drains the battery. That's what I'm talking. It is more exciting. It is more exciting regarding that. That is very true. Very true. But I mean, for people who are abducted, who are sitting there trying to figure out what is happening to them, there is some real big questions that need to be answered regarding the phenomena and what is known and what isn't known. For those who are abducted out there, and even people in our audience who've had that experience and choose to believe that that experience is very, very real. The idea that the abduction phenomena is happening without the knowing of anybody, sometimes even yourself. Look, you may have recall memories of one or two incidents, but maybe you've been taken 20, 30, 40, 50 times that you don't know about. We got Olav coming back here right now. Are you there, Olav?
Yes, my battery just up and died on me. I don't know. I have had so many problems with my phone tonight trying to talk about this stuff with you. It's really just weird.
It is weird.
It is. You know me. I've done your show like how many times, and nothing ever happens, and it's crashed so many times now.
Yeah, that's number 4.
Yeah, I know. It's bizarre. Well, anyway, what I was saying is that, I'm going to believe you. What you're saying is true. And then, I'm going to try to understand it. And I don't trust anybody. So I'm going to go through it and try to understand it and, see where it goes. So, but I'll absolutely believe that you believe what you're telling me. I won't discount it at all. That's how I handle it.
Olav, we have 2 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to you. And, it's been a long, fun night of serious woo. And we love it when you bring in your woo here, man. And it's always welcome here. But do us a favor in the next 2 minutes. Tell everybody where they can find you, your articles, Paranoia Magazine, and everything in between.
Sure, it's paranoiamagazine.com. It's Olav Phillips on Facebook. Paranoia Magazine on Facebook. Paranoia Mags on Instagram. If you're on Clubhouse, I teach a class in occultism and occult science every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. You can find me at the Celestial Lodge of Sirius.com. I'm really easy to find. You can Google me, and I always respond. I love talking to people about this stuff. So,
well, you definitely do. You definitely do. You are one of the good guys in this field for sure, my friend. And it's always a pleasure to have you here on this show. We absolutely love you here. And what's next for you? What are you working on?
Well, like I said, I've been teaching the classes every Tuesday on Clubhouse. It's like a chat app. I've been doing some research into occult ciphers and some stuff like that. And I'm working with Alan Greenfield, the author of this complete cipher, the complete secret cipher of the UFO Nauts. We're reconstituting the Hermetic Assembly of Light, which is a very interesting kind of organization. So we've been kind of trying to work on that. And I'm trying to write a book on occult ciphers and another book on, I'll tell you about later. But, I'm just trying to keep busy and do interesting stuff, go on road trips, see weird things.
Very cool. Very cool. Olav, it's always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us once again, my friend. And, we'll do it again very soon and very often because we love you around here.
Well, thank you. It's a huge honor for me to be on the show, and I love your show, so I'll do it anytime. I love you. You've got a great show. You're a great guy.
Thank you, buddy.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. Your check is in the mail, much like all of our subscribers that we bought on this program. Olav Phillips, everybody. Coming up next, we have the Unbiased UFO Report with John Hudson. The Stetson Man is back. We got the news, the thought of the day. Stay tuned. We continue right after this. All right, buddy, we're clear.
All right, man. Dude, I'm sorry. I don't know what the hell happened.
Oh, that's all right. Shit happens.
My phone kept, like, crashing.
It's okay.
All right. Well, you have a good rest of the night, okay?
We'll talk soon because I'm going to hit you up about Alan coming on.
Oh, yeah, and I got some ideas we need to discuss.
Yeah, bro.
Like super ultra peak woo.
Good. I will call you this week.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy.
Okay, bye.
You take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Olav Phillips, everyone. The Olav Phillips. Love him around here. Oh, Chad Smith, I'm going to get so much play out of that BS. So much play. Oh, Amy, thank you so much for that wonderful super chat. Aren't you just a divine darling there? Big thank you to Justin as well. Flat Earther, Wayland, Black Dragon ×2, Space Cow, Sonny, and Chad Smith. The Chad Smith. Vanner, it's coming. That's all I could say. They come out the 32nd of every month and the 30th in February. I want to look at that bear again. Looks so happy. You guys want to see my local bear again? Let me find it here. Where are you? Where do you go? Maybe just ask it. Is that the one? Just trying to find it here. No, where the hell did I see that one? It was here earlier. New activity. Recent posts. There it is. Look at this big fat guy. Love him. Hold on. Aussie Steve, thank you for a wonderful super chat there. All right, I'll show you him here. Hold on. So happy about this. Honestly. Look how happy he is. My dog the other day took off down this hill and ran into this guy's yard. Look at him. Hey, what's going on over there, humans? What's going on? He is a gorgeous bear. He really is. I like him. Hey, John.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Good. I'm just admiring my black bear from earlier today.
Yeah, it's a beautiful bear.
Yeah.
Well, any idea? I imagine you have enough experience with them. Do you have any guess on like what is actually like weight or anything like this?
Oh, he was a couple 100 pounds. His coat was so shiny. It was so shiny black. It was so beautiful. So beautiful. I was
when
I got the video
I heard
of him
right,
earlier.
I heard right that they're more vicious.
No,
that they're a little more dangerous than grizzlies, or is that not true?
That's totally
okay,
not true.
All right. Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Justin, I do like ufology. I just don't like a lot of what's going on. That answers your question earlier, by the way. I meant to do that.
Dave doesn't like being back in high school.
No.
Especially at our age.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. It is a gorgeous bear, though. We got 20 seconds here. $15. That's a nice bottle of Coca-Cola you got there.
Well, it's actually Pepsi, and it was sad because my Pepsi bottle broke. Hard to replace.
All right, buddy, here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Oh yes, it is time once again for our man of space. The man who always wears a black Stetson when he comes in to SOR HQ. John Hudson and the unbiased UFO report. Let's get right into it, John, because it's been a tumultuous weekend in news. And you know what? I'm just curious. Before we even get started, did you get a chance to see that conference that came down, that virtual conference this past weekend?
I saw small portions of it. Most of what I got of it was through the very, very hard work of Joe Merja, who was doing some fabulous reporting of it. And so he was giving us all sorts of information about it in little video snippets. And it was kind of what I expected, no new information, but, perhaps delivered in a way that some people might understand it better than the last time they heard the data. The only one I found really interesting, which is what I expected, was what Eric Weinstein talked about.
Well, I could say this. When you get the same people at every conference saying the exact same thing, you're doling out a lot of money for that type of information. Repetitive information.
And if you think about it, the reason why it's a broken model is because when all this started, the only time you got to see these people was if they came to your local habitants, right? And so they could take them on tour to 6 different states because each state could only see them at that one time. And so it made sense to have the same people talk about the same thing over and over again. Now, when it's a universal delivery system, that whole model breaks.
It's very true. Very true. I talked to some people who really liked it. They loved how virtual the makingcontact.com website was. It felt like a video game, but I also talked to people who were like, this is crazy. One of the biggest complaints I heard from the conference was, you pay all that money and, you're supposed to wander around in your little action figure person on the screen, and the people you are supposed to be talking to or want to talk to, the guests, you're supposed to be able to chat with those who are speaking, they were nowhere to be found, anywhere. So at the minute that they finished their conference, they were logging out and not interacting with the people. I'm sorry, but
it's like a real conference.
I'm sorry, but at $250 a ticket, I want to speak to somebody. So,
oh man.
Either way, I'm not gonna give credit where credit is due. Okay, the credit due is it was a great idea, by Mark Sims and Danny Sheehan. Okay,
some flavor of this is the future, right? It may not be this exact instantiation, but some flavor of this is the future.
Yeah, but you know what? I can say this: whether it's this conference, whether it was Contact in the Desert, or other conferences that have been virtual this year, I don't like them. I don't like them. And let me tell you why. The beautiful part about going, if you've never gone to a conference before, okay, there is something really fun about conferences. And believe it or not, for those who are not on the speaking end, okay, because I've only been at conferences where I've been on the speaking end, we're all usually there to hang out with. All you got to do is come up to us. You know, if you want to if you want to hang out,
we're desperate for companionship.
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that human contact is needed. I talked to the group with Contact in the Desert after their virtual conference, and as much as they enjoyed the efforts in trying to get it going, and it was difficult, they weren't fans of it because it took away from that humanity. And, you know, if you go to a UFO conference, you know, like right now I'm scheduled to speak in 2022 at UFO Con in San Francisco. Lori and Fenton.
That's going to be fun. That's 45 minutes away from me, so I'll get to go to that one.
Yeah, I mean, when I go there, I want to meet my fans. And, you know, every person I talk to, whether it's Grant Cameron, Steve Bassett, you know, Lori and Fenton, Melinda Leslie, we all want to meet you. You're part of the community. We're just the loudmouth, big mouth voices, right?
Yeah. Well, and let's face it, we're the safe ones to talk to, right? I mean, we're the ones that aren't going to start, you know, usually, right? we're the ones that, you know, believe what you believe, right? So it's like it's camaraderie, you know.
Could you imagine the lineup for autographs that Chad Smith would have?
Oh, it'd be like a new iPhone coming out. It'd be madness. You know, no, I think until we get VR, I don't see this whole conference thing taking off. Because I mean, I've had some VR experiences that I've tricked my senses with, you know, because your senses have having a hierarchy, you know, and I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I've gotten motion sick, like standing in the middle of my living room. It's amazing, but it's still very clunky, it's still very expensive, and it's still very out of reach for a lot of people. It's going to take a while.
Very true. Very true. All right, let's move on to tonight's news with you. Number one, let's go into a little bit of politics here, because the Pentagon reportedly set to declassify space laser capable of destroying satellites and spacecraft. This is interesting, John.
So this is a hard one to tackle. So this is one of the reasons why I'm excited about talking about it, because the tendency that everyone's going to have is to focus on what the program is, because it's an interesting program. It's some sort of a significantly advanced defense system for outer space. There are some people that believe it's ground-based, some people believe it's satellite-based, some people believe there's all sorts of hypotheses how it works. There's supposed to be a visual demonstration, so woohoo, you know, it could be something real pretty. And so, you know, and it is an SAP program, and so we're getting to see what it takes to get an SAP program declassified, which is a dry run for everything else we're talking about, right? We now know it takes the DNI and it takes the president. It takes all this coordination, right? So this is a really good way for all of us to see what does it actually take to get an SAP program declassified. So all that is all really interesting, and that's what's going to attract your attention. But that's not the important part. The important part is the article that I linked goes into a lot of detail about the mood swing and the cultural change that's going on in the military, specifically related to space assets. Because historically, secrecy was seen as an asset. And what some people, a larger group that's growing every day, is starting to realize is secrecy destroys your investment when it comes to space assets. You have to advertise what you have. You have to demonstrate what you have, because if you don't, no one knows about it, and it's not a deterrent anymore, right? If you really want to be a deterrent, you got to advertise it. And so this is a huge cultural change that's starting to happen, and if it continues to snowball and it continues to catch on, this could radically change the entire presence of the security apparatus. Surveillance is always going to be secret because that has to be secret. But offensive weapons, if you really think about it, an offensive weapon kept secret is intended to be used. An offensive weapon that's publicized is intended to deter. So this is a much more mature approach to defense, and it specifically has to do with space assets. And so this is very pertinent to us, but it might be one hell of a signal that there is change going on that might explain why now.
It could very well. It could very well. But do you think that these protections are just built for earthly adversaries, or do you think they could be part of some sort of extraterrestrial defense as well?
Dave, I think that if you were heading that program, that irregardless of what you actually believed, you would write it, you would spec it, you would talk about it, and you'd present it as if its only focus was Earth-based assets. However, a big freaking gun is a big freaking laser gun. And if you can track 1 meter objects in orbit and pick them out of the sky and destroy them to a degree that you do not create debris falling back to the Earth, that is one hell of a weapon. And it could be used for all sorts of fun stuff.
Well, that also opens up the question, too. This will be my final question for this one, is, do we have a defense mechanism already up there in place for any type of adversarial extraterrestrials?
I don't believe so. I've heard reliable murmurings of a deep space network that monitors incoming objects, but it's not great. We won't hear about an Earth-killing asteroid until it passes Saturn. So basically, if anything's going to take out Earth, we're going to get maximum 2 days notice. And when it comes to closer objects, we've been doing offensive satellite stuff. So satellites that are able to defend each other for at least 25 years. You can find that in the declassified satellite reports that come out about on a 25-year cadence. You can see that 25 years ago, they were starting to really focus on defensive maneuvers. So satellites have had defensive capabilities, but as far as the ability to actually offensively strike an incoming object, it's possible, but if we have it, it's probably what they're about to announce.
All right, moving on. Luis Elizondo has been pretty silent in the last month and a half, ever since the couple weeks after the DNI report, yet he's starting to speak again.
Yeah, I figure the poor guy probably lost his voice. So this is fun, and what's neat about this, and I'll post links to it, is that this is the next Gov conference. And I got to look through my notes. I think I might have presented at this conference before. I can't remember if I have or not. It's not a conference that normally focuses on UAP stuff. It's a conference that normally just focuses on next generation technology that the government should be paying attention to, right? And so, but both Lou Elizondo and Senator Reid both were at this conference and both were interviewed, and those interviews are posted, which I'll post links to. Elizondo's interview is interesting. It's a little more forthcoming. It's a little more personal. It's a little more emotional, in my opinion. But it's not topics that we wouldn't necessarily cover. What's super interesting is what our dear friend Senator Reid talked about, because there is a 44-second clip which I will be posting that basically where he talks about the fact that I believe it was the Omaha basically saw a football-shaped object the size of a football field come out of the water. It was seen. It was photographed. There was ELINT and all sorts of optical, electrical data captured on it. He said that because of the data that was collected on it, it was the first real scientifically sane photographs that we had of an object, which I think was an interesting way of phrasing it on his part, and it then went back into the water. And so what that means is this is not the triangle that we've all been talking about for a while. This is a different case, and that's a big boy that came out of the water. And so that's it. That, as far as I know, I mean, there's possibly other people already knew about it, but for me personally, that was a new case that I didn't have any knowledge off the top of my head about. So thank you, Senator Reed.
Was there any reason, or did Elizondo speak as to why he had been silenced the last few weeks?
No, he did not. However, I saw a couple of days ago. He was meant to be on with I think it was Christina Gomez, and that got postponed because of flight problems that Lou was having. But before it was going to be postponed, she had some language on her thing talking about what they would talk about, and one of the things she mentioned was there being a new news embargo. That there was some indication, and I don't know if that was her guess or if that was a tip that Lou gave her that they were planning on talking about. And so part of me is actually a little suspicious now that there has actually been a sort of a temporary news embargo, perhaps to let people digest, perhaps to, who knows the reasoning behind it. But he did not mention anything about that in the interview I saw.
All right, and finally tonight, let's go to, I don't know what to think about this one, but Robert Salas, who has been a longtime researcher, and especially on UFOs and nuclear weapons, is wanting to set up a GoFundMe account.
So my initial reaction was similar to yours, and the more I read into it, the more I liked it, which is the whole reason why I wanted to say something about it. And that is that yes, what this is a GoFundMe for a conference on the nuclear aspects of the UFO issue, right? And but what's interesting is that the way he's written it is very intelligent. It's very professional, and he's only asking for $10,000. But what's really interesting is you can see who gave and how much they gave. And I was amazed how much money he was getting and who was getting it. There were some interesting names on that list of people that were donating to him. People giving $500 and more. And he's already raised, actually, last I checked, I haven't looked in a couple of days. Last I checked, he'd already raised $5,500 of that $10,000.
I'm going to look. So, I'm going to look right now.
I think he's got a good chance of getting that $10,000. And let's face it, I mean, we all know how humans work. If he actually gets that $10,000, then he and everyone else involved in that conference are going to work their bloody tails off, and they're going to make that one hell of a conference. And so it could turn into something interesting. And I applaud him for trying to do this, considering the fact that he probably gets absolutely no love from anyone when he tries to do anything like this and get it supported or sponsored by anyone else. This is not a topic most people want to talk about. It's very uncomfortable.
Well, he said $5,576 of his $10,000 goal so far.
That's not bad.
Until he brings in everybody who has done it before. Kevin Knuth, scientist, $500. Not sure who Jared Tarbell is, $1,000. Jim Semivan. Maybe that's just a throw-in name, same as Chris Mellon, maybe just a throw-in name.
Hard to say.
$100 and $500. We'll never know.
Yep.
Robert.
But I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. John, thank you so much. We're going to have to call it the night with you, my friend, but we always appreciate you coming on the Unbiased UFO Report, heard every couple of nights here on Spaced Out Radio. We'll talk to you in a couple days.
Thank you much, sir. Have a good evening.
You too, buddy. The news is always changing. That's why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we bring you the weird, the wacky, and the odd. And you know what? We're going to start right here. The fastest accelerating roller coaster in the world has been suspended until further notice after multiple customers reported broken bones from the ride. Since December, at least 6 riders sustained bone fractures after riding Dodonpa, a roller coaster that goes at super dense speed in the country's popular Fuji-Q Highland Park. The park's operator said 4 of them said they broke their neck or back. Holy cow. The incidents, alerted to authorities on August 17th, are baffling officials. Built in 2001, the ride goes from 0 to 112 miles per hour or 180 kilometers per hour in just 1.56 seconds, making it the fastest accelerating roller coaster in the world. But the park said it was the first time riders broke their bones on the ride since it went into operation 2 decades ago. In 2017, the ride was even modified to bring the top speed from 172 kilometers per hour to 180, but the park said there were no reports of serious injuries, including bone fractures, until December. There's been no technical issues found upon initial investigation. The ride's manufacturing company, Sansei Technologies, apologized to the injured customers, but said it also didn't know what caused the injuries. I don't know about you, but I want to ride this thing. If there's something you do not know about me, I am a roller coaster fanatic. I want to go on this now. All right, Elon Musk is at it again with the Tesla bot, a humanoid AI robot that he claims will eliminate the need for physical work in the future, bringing us closer to 1984. The book, not the year. It's basically going to start dealing with work that is boring, repetitive, and dangerous. Unveiling the 5'8", 125-pound robot at Tesla's AI Day, in the future, physical work will be a choice, it said. Now, the bot, tentatively dubbed Optimus, is built for similar materials as Tesla's notoriously fallible autopilot software. It can carry 45 pounds, lift 150 pounds, and run 5 miles per hour. In other words, I will never have to mow my lawn again. I'm looking forward to this one. And finally tonight, here's a good story. A customer at a Florida restaurant thanked the staff for showing up and working hard by leaving a $10,000 tip. The Wahoo Seafood Grill in Gainesville said in an Instagram post that a recent customer asked to speak with the eatery's entire staff during a visit. The workers gathered in the dining area where the man thanked them for showing up and working hard. Then he announced that he would be tipping each of the 10 workers $1,000. Good for him. Thank you so much for everybody listening into the news tonight. Brought to you by Captain Shirky Poo, John Hudson with the UFO report, and of course Olav Phillips talking all the major woo that we could handle for tonight. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, Twitch, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.